I was chopping vegetables for dinner on a quiet Friday evening in my Portland apartment when three soft knocks echoed through my door. The sound made my heart skip because nobody ever visited unannounced. I wiped my hands on my apron and walked to the peephole expecting maybe a delivery driver or confused neighbor. But what I saw made my legs nearly give out beneath me. Standing in the dim hallway light was a woman who looked exactly like my sister Emma, who had died in a car accident 3 years ago. Before I share what happened that night, I would love to know where you are watching from. Please hit that like button and subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this. And trust me, what my sister told me next will make you question everything you think you know about family loyalty. Growing up in suburban Denver, I always believed we had the perfect American family. My father David worked as an insurance broker, coming home every evening with his briefcase and loose tie, while my mother Patricia taught third grade at the local elementary school. Our two-story house on Maple Street had a white picket fence, a golden retriever named Buddy, and neighbors who waved from their perfectly manicured lawns. Every Sunday morning we attended brunch at the country club, where my parents smiled and chatted with other families about vacation plans and college preparations. Emma was everything I was not. 3 years older, she sailed through high school as valedictorian captain of the debate team and recipient of a full scholarship to Stanford University. While I struggled with average grades and spent my afternoons painting watercolors in the garage, Emma was already planning her future as a doctor. Our family vacations to Yellowstone became showcases for her achievements, with my parents proudly telling other families about her pre-med program and impressive MCAT scores. Christmas mornings at our house felt like scenes from a holiday movie. My mother would make her famous cinnamon rolls while my father played jazz records, and Emma helped me arrange presents under our 12-foot tree. I remember feeling so grateful for my family during those moments, watching Emma laugh as she helped me open gifts and seeing my parents beam with pride at both of their daughters. I never questioned why I felt like I was always trying to catch up to my sister, or why my own artistic dreams seemed less important than her medical aspirations. The phone call that shattered our perfect world came at 2 in the morning on a Tuesday in March 3 years ago. I was finishing my junior year at a local college majoring in art therapy when my father's trembling voice woke me from sleep. Emma had been driving alone on a California highway after finishing a late study session at Stanford Medical School. Her car had somehow veered off the road, crashed through a guardrail, and plummeted into a deep ravine before exploding into flames. The impact was so severe and the fire so intense that her body could not be identified, leaving only her purse, student identification, and medical school textbooks scattered across the crash site. I remember collapsing in my dorm room, my roommate holding me as I sobbed uncontrollably. The funeral was held on a gray Saturday morning with a closed casket surrounded by white lilies. Hundreds of people came to pay their respects to Emma, including classmates from Stanford, professors who praised her brilliance, and family friends who shared stories about her kindness and determination. I stood between my parents at the cemetery, watching them lower an empty coffin into the ground, while trying to process that my sister, my brilliant and beautiful sister, was truly gone forever. What struck me as strange, even through my grief, was how quickly my parents seemed to move forward after the funeral. Within 6 weeks, they announced they were selling our family home and relocating to Arizona for a fresh start. My mother claimed the memories in Denver were too painful, and my father said his insurance company had offered him a position in Phoenix with better pay and benefits. They sold our house for significantly less than market value, packed up 25 years of memories in just 2 weeks, and moved across the country before I could even process what was happening. When I asked if I could go through Emma's belongings to keep something meaningful, my parents told me they had already donated everything to charity. They claimed it was too painful to hold on to her things and that she would have wanted her clothes and books to help other people. But something about their rushed explanations felt wrong. My mother avoided eye contact when discussing Emma's possessions, and my father seemed unusually eager to change the subject whenever I brought up my sister's memory or asked questions about her final months at medical school. Standing in my doorway was definitely Emma, but she looked different. Her once long blonde hair was now dark brown and cut in a short bob. She wore glasses I had never seen before, and a simple gray sweater that hung loose on her thinner frame. But her green eyes and the small scar above her left eyebrow from a childhood bicycle accident were exactly the same. When she spoke, her voice was softer than I remembered, almost hesitant, as if she was afraid I might scream or slam the door in her face. "Jackie, I know this is impossible to believe, but I need to tell you something about Mom and Dad that will change everything you think you know about our family," she said, glancing nervously over her shoulder as if someone might be watching. "Can I please come inside? What I have to show you cannot wait any longer, and you are in more danger than you realize." I let her into my apartment, my hands shaking as I locked the door behind her. Emma sat on my couch and began explaining the truth that had been hidden from me for 3 long years. There had been no car accident, no tragic death on a California highway. Everything about her death had been carefully staged and orchestrated, because she had discovered something terrible about our parents that threatened to destroy not only her future, but potentially mine as well. During her final year at Stanford Medical School, Emma had been reviewing her financial aid documents when she noticed discrepancies in her trust fund account. Our grandmother had left both of us substantial inheritances to pay for college and graduate school, but Emma discovered that $850,000 from her trust had been withdrawn without her knowledge or permission. When she investigated further, she found forged documents bearing her signature and authorization forms she had never seen before, let alone signed. The truth was even worse than simple theft. My father had not only stolen Emma's inheritance money to cover his own gambling debts, but he had also taken out massive student loans in her name, without her knowledge. Over the course of 4 years, he had borrowed nearly $300,000 for her medical education, while simultaneously draining her trust fund to pay off bookmakers and casino debts he had accumulated through online gambling and weekend trips to Las Vegas. When Emma confronted our parents during Christmas break of her senior year, they initially denied everything. But when she presented bank statements and forged documents as evidence, my father broke down and confessed. He claimed his gambling addiction had spiraled out of control after he began placing bets to celebrate Emma's academic achievements. What started as small wagers on football games had escalated to high-stakes poker and eventually led to borrowing money from dangerous people who demanded immediate repayment with considerable interest. Instead of taking responsibility for their actions, my parents became desperate and threatening. They told Emma that if she reported them to authorities or tried to recover her stolen money, they would destroy her medical career by claiming she was mentally unstable and had been abusing prescription medications. My mother, who I had always seen as gentle and nurturing, actually suggested they could have Emma committed to a psychiatric facility if she refused to cooperate with keeping their secret. Realizing that her parents were willing to destroy her life to protect themselves, Emma made the desperate decision to stage her own death with the help of her boyfriend Marcus, who was also a medical student. They had access to cadavers through their anatomy courses and knew enough about forensic science to create a convincing accident scene. Using the body of an 85-year-old homeless man who had died of natural causes, they placed his remains in Emma's car, along with her personal belongings, drove to an isolated stretch of highway, and set the vehicle on fire after pushing it into a ravine. For 3 years, Emma had been living under the false identity of Sarah Chen in Seattle, working as a nurse while gathering evidence against our parents. She had legally died, which meant she could not pursue the student loans that remained in her name, and our parents had collected substantial life insurance payouts. But Emma had spent every free moment documenting their crimes and building a case that would eventually bring them to justice, while also protecting me from becoming their next victim. Emma opened a large briefcase she had brought with her and spread dozens of documents across my coffee table. Bank statements, insurance policies, forged signatures, and recorded phone conversations filled every available surface. She showed me medical examiner reports that proved the body found in her car belonged to an 85-year-old man, not a 25-year-old woman. There were photographs of our parents celebrating expensive purchases just weeks after her funeral, including a new BMW for my father and diamond jewelry for my mother. But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. Emma had discovered that our parents were already implementing the same plan with me as their next target. Without my knowledge, they had been slowly destroying my credit and building debt in my name. They had applied for credit cards using my social security number, taken out small loans with forged signatures, and were systematically creating a financial crisis that would eventually force me to become their legal guardian and financial caretaker as they entered their golden years. My current credit report, which Emma had obtained through legal channels, showed over $45,000 in debt that I knew nothing about. Store credit cards, personal loans, and even a car loan for a vehicle I had never seen were all listed under my name and social security number. My parents had been planning to gradually reveal this debt to me, claiming it was the result of family financial emergencies, and pressure me into taking legal responsibility for their care and expenses. Emma handed me her phone and played a recording she had made during one of our parents' conversations about their plans for my future. Their voices were clear and unmistakable as they discussed how to manipulate me into signing documents that would give them access to my bank accounts and any future inheritances. My mother's voice, so familiar and once comforting, talked about me as if I was nothing more than a financial resource to be exploited when their other schemes failed. I called our parents that same night, my hands trembling as I dialed their Arizona phone number. When my father answered, I told him I knew the truth about Emma's faked death and demanded an explanation for the debt they had created in my name. Initially, both parents denied everything, claiming Emma was mentally ill and that I was being manipulated by someone pretending to be my dead sister. But when I started reading specific details from the bank statements and insurance documents, my father's voice began to crack. He eventually admitted that yes, he had taken some money from Emma's trust fund, but only because he was trying to invest it for better returns. He claimed the gambling was just a few unlucky bets that had gotten out of hand, and that he had always intended to pay everything back once his luck turned around. My mother got on the phone, and her tone completely changed from the gentle, nurturing voice I had grown up hearing. She screamed about Emma being an ungrateful daughter who was trying to destroy our family over money that would eventually belong to her anyway. She claimed that everything they had done was to protect the family's financial future, and that Emma had forced them into desperate actions by threatening to ruin my father's career and reputation. The conversation escalated when they revealed the true extent of their financial crimes. They had not only stolen Emma's inheritance and created debt in my name, but they had also been embezzling money from my father's insurance clients and using my mother's access to school funds for personal expenses. They were facing bankruptcy, criminal investigations, and the very real possibility of prison time if their crimes were discovered by authorities. My parents drove from Arizona to Portland that same weekend, arriving at my apartment on Sunday morning, demanding to speak with me in person. The argument that followed was unlike anything I had ever experienced in our formerly peaceful family. My father paced around my living room, alternating between pleading for forgiveness and threatening to call the police to report Emma for insurance fraud and faking her own death. My mother sat on my couch crying, begging me to choose between my dead sister, who was trying to destroy our family, and my living parents, who needed my support and loyalty. She claimed that everything they had done was motivated by love and desperation, and that Emma was being selfish and vindictive by refusing to forgive them for their mistakes. When Emma emerged from my bedroom where she had been hiding, my parents' demeanor changed completely. My father started yelling about how she had traumatized the entire family by faking her death, and that she was mentally disturbed for putting us through years of grief. My mother accused Emma of manipulating me against them and claimed that she was no longer their daughter if she was determined to destroy their lives. But Emma had one final revelation that silenced their protests immediately. She played a recording she had made of our parents discussing what they would do if I discovered the truth about their financial crimes. On the recording, which was made just 2 months ago, my father and mother talked about making my death look like an accident, just as they had done with Emma's supposed car crash, if I refused to cooperate with their plans or threatened to expose them to authorities. The sound of police sirens grew louder outside my apartment building as Emma finished playing the recording. She had secretly called emergency services during the argument, and officers were already on their way upstairs to arrest my parents for multiple felonies, including insurance fraud, identity theft, elder abuse, and conspiracy to commit murder. My parents were arrested that Sunday afternoon and charged with numerous crimes that would eventually result in serious prison sentences. I officially filed restraining orders against both of them and pressed charges for identity theft and fraud. Emma worked with attorneys to legally resurrect her identity and pursue civil cases against my parents and the insurance companies that had paid out her fraudulent death benefits. The court proceedings revealed the full extent of their crimes over nearly a decade. They had stolen over $1,200,000 from various sources, including Emma's trust fund, my credit accounts, my father's insurance clients, and my mother's school district. My father was sentenced to 18 months in prison, while my mother received 12 months plus requirements to pay full restitution to all victims. Insurance companies were able to recover most of the money they had paid out for Emma's fake death, and my credit was completely cleared of all fraudulent debt. The legal process was long and emotionally draining, but seeing my parents held accountable for their actions provided a sense of justice that began my healing journey. Emma slowly transitioned back to her legal identity, with help from victim advocacy groups that specialized in cases of family financial abuse. The process of legally returning from the dead was complicated and required extensive documentation, but within 6 months, she was able to resume using her real name and social security number. She returned to her medical career through an accelerated nurse practitioner program that allowed her to use her previous education and experience. I quit my corporate job and decided to pursue art therapy, specifically working with victims of family fraud and financial abuse. The experience with my parents had shown me how devastating betrayal by family members could be, and I wanted to help other people process their trauma and rebuild their lives. Emma and I spent months in therapy together, working through our shared trauma and rebuilding the trust that had been damaged by years of separation and deception. We created new traditions that had nothing to do with our parents or our childhood memories. Weekly dinners at different restaurants around Portland became opportunities to share our experiences and support each other through the ongoing legal proceedings. Annual camping trips to the Oregon coast replaced our old family vacations, and we celebrated holidays by volunteering at shelters and community centers rather than focusing on expensive gifts and elaborate meals. The support group for family fraud victims became an important part of our healing process. Meeting other people who had experienced similar betrayals by parents, siblings, and spouses helped us understand that we were not alone, and that recovery was possible. Sharing our story with others who had survived financial abuse gave new meaning to our traumatic experience and helped us transform our pain into purpose. 2 years after that shocking Sunday when Emma knocked on my door, both of us were thriving independently in the Portland area. I had married my boyfriend Tyler, who had supported me through the entire ordeal with my parents, and Emma was engaged to Marcus, who had risked his own career to help her escape her dangerous situation. We maintained absolutely no contact with our parents, despite regular letters from prison asking for forgiveness and claiming they had learned from their mistakes. The hardest lesson I learned through this experience was that family is not about blood relationships or genetic connections, but about genuine love, respect, and mutual support. Our parents had taught us that family meant obligation and loyalty, regardless of how badly you were treated. But Emma and I discovered that real family means people who protect and cherish you, rather than exploit and manipulate you. Learning to forgive ourselves for being victims was more difficult than forgiving our parents for their crimes. We both struggled with guilt about not recognizing the warning signs earlier and allowing ourselves to be deceived for so long. But therapy helped us understand that we were not responsible for our parents' choices, and that being trusting and loving children did not make us naive or stupid. I want to address anyone watching who might be experiencing financial abuse within their own family. Please check your credit reports regularly and trust your instincts when something feels wrong about family financial arrangements. Do not let guilt or obligation prevent you from protecting yourself from people who would exploit your love and trust, even if those people are your own parents or siblings. The most important message I can share is that chosen family is often stronger and more reliable than biological family. Emma and I built a relationship based on honesty, mutual respect, and genuine care for each other's well-being. We learned that family should be a source of support and encouragement, not manipulation and control. Sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones you need protection from, and sometimes the person you thought you lost forever is exactly who you need to save yourself. Emma and I continue our journey together, building authentic lives based on truth rather than the lies our parents taught us to accept as normal. What would you do if you discovered that your own family had been lying to you about something this serious? Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and protecting yourself from people who claim to love you? Please share your thoughts in the comments below, and do not forget to like this video if it made you think about your own family relationships. Subscribe for more true stories about overcoming family trauma, and please share this video with anyone who might need to hear that they deserve better than manipulation disguised as love. Thank you for listening to my story, and I wish you the courage to trust your instincts and protect yourself from anyone who would exploit your kindness, regardless of their relationship to you.